Hi everyone, welcome back to 2D Design on the Computer. Today we're going to go over how to create some layers and then also the type tool over here and different ways to create interesting fonts. So let's get started. First, let's go over to our layer, and as we can see, we have one layer. It is highlighted blue, and when I click off of it, it is not highlighted blue anymore, and then when I click on it, it's highlighted. That means that it is an active layer. When you come down here, you see Create New Layer. If you click on that, it will allow you to have a second layer, and you'll see it by the color as well as the type here saying Layer 2. You can change this by either clicking directly on there on the type box and change the name of the layer, or you can click on the side of the layer here and you can change the color, you can change if it's locked or not, print, different settings, and then also the type as well. Now for each layer you can create a sub-layer. This is a layer within a layer. This is helpful if you're working on a group of things and later you have to apply one effect to all of them. So for example, I maybe have multiple sub-layers under my one layer, and then I will apply just this effect to this top layer and it will apply to all of them. Alright, so for now we're going to delete them, so you can do that by clicking on them, and if you click on it you can then go down to the trash can and erase them. For right now we're only going to work on one layer. As Illustrator will automatically create sub-layers once you start working, and you'll see. Okay, so let's delete this. I'm just going to have a layer 1 right now, and then I'm going to go to the window and go to Workspace and make sure my typography is checked, just because I find it helpful to be able to go in and work with the different settings here. So let's get started. We'll go to our type tool. We'll click on this and you just click and a type box will appear. My letters are highlighted, so I can go in and change the font size here. As you can see, I'm just making it a little bigger so everybody can kind of see. And then if I would like to move it, I'm going to go to my selection tool and move it to the center so everyone can see, and go back to my type tool and now click and highlight. Okay, and now we're just going to go over some of these of what they actually do. This is the kerning tool. Remember, that's how the letters line up individually in between each other. So here, for example, if we go to auto, you can see how it's shifting a little bit, the space in between / how the letters are aligning. For some fonts, it will not allow you to change it manually because of, I think, the presets of the font. So just beware of that. Then you can come down to this one. This is the vertical scaling. As you can see, it makes it taller or smaller. And then this one allows us to, let's say I just highlight half of the word. It allows me to raise it up, and I can drop it back down, and I can go underneath. So basically, it's more of a way to play with the superscript, I think that's what it's called here, superscript, and then subscript. You can kind of play around. These are more automatic auto check, auto clicks where you can do it, and this you can kind of play a little more and make it a little more manual. Alright, so let's undo that for a second. Okay, and then we're going to go over to here, and this is the leading. So for example, if I type some other words and I highlight them. Oop, be careful not to create a new type box, which I just did. So let's go to our direct selection tool and delete that and go back to our text tool and make sure we are inside the box and highlight it. And then you can go and change the spacing in between, like basically the words and paragraph, I guess you would say. And then here we have the tracking. Now this is the space in between all of the words. So not just individual letters and how they line up, but the spaces in between each letter. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, and then, yep, so I'm correct there. So sorry, the tracking, I almost confused myself there. So this is the tracking, the space in between all of the letters. And then this is the scaling. Okay, allowing you to stretch it and shrink it. Now this isn't really changing so much the space in between each letter, it's just scaling it to smush it and then to stretch it out a little bit more. And then this is obviously the rotate tool. As you can see, I can rotate it and put it on several angles here. And then we went over, so this is a capital, all caps, and this is small caps. And then we went over these two, superscript, subscript, and then this is underline, and then cross out. Okay, so for right now, this is just some basic features of how to play with this text. Now another feature we have, I'm just going to come down to the bottom here, the touch type tool, which can also be found up here. We're going to click on that, and if we highlight just one individual letter, it will allow us to move and play with just that individual letter. And that is called the touch type tool. Okay, and that's also located over here, and it's Shift T for shortcut. So it allows you to manipulate one letter and move it around, etc. Okay, so now that we have covered the plain type tool, we're going to go to our type toolbar here, and we're going to the area type tool. Okay, so just make sure that that's selected and you know which one I'm talking about. So now we're going to go to our shape. We're going to create a shape, and we're going to make sure the stroke is on. So I'm going to put a fill color in the stroke, and I'm going to turn off the fill. So now, as you can see, we have our shape. Okay, so we're going to go back to our area type tool, and what you're going to do is you're going to click on the path. Now, I'm just going to change my font size so it is easier for it to fit in here. And as you can see, as I start typing, and also I should probably change the leading. So let's smush that together some more here. Oop, a little too much. That looks good. Okay, so as you can see, what it's doing is creating the type within the circle. So it will be the shape of this circle. And because of the words, the way I'm typing, I'd have to break it up a little. Oop. Let's turn off those. But as you can see, it is making it in the shape of a circle. All right, and this will do that to any shape that you pick. If you do a rectangle, a star, an ellipse, it will make the type fit within that area. Okay, now let's move on to our next type tool. So type on path tool. So we'll click on that, and what we'll do is we're going to create another ellipse. We're going to follow the same procedure where we turn on the stroke fill. we're going to turn off the regular fill. So we have our ellipse hanging out here. Oops, sorry. We have our ellipse hanging out here, and what we're going to do is go to our path, our type on path tool, and we're going to come and click on it. And as you can see, it makes the type go around that circle. Or, for example, let's see if I draw some jagged, crazy lines here. Oh, that might not work. Okay, let's just say something like that. And then let's turn on the type here and turn this off. Okay, so we have that shape, and then we go on the type on path tool, we click on it, and as you can see, it will make those letters on that path. So this is a good way to kind of go about creating letters in funky shapes around a triangle and a circle. So there's many ways to do that. Okay, so let's go now to the vertical type tool. And this allows us just to type vertically. Okay, so basically that one's pretty simple. You just click, just like the type tool, and the letters appear. Okay, and moving down, you have the vertical area type tool. So if we did this circle, for example, let's try again. We'll make our circle again. We're going to put this fill on here. Turn this off. Okay, and then we go to the vertical area type tool and we click on the path, and it will let us do it vertically. And that is the same with all of these. So if I'm typing something, it's just going to convert it to vertical. And then down here is the touch type tool, which we already covered. So these are some easy ways to work with the type tool and create some fonts that are a little more interesting. Next, we're going to cover some ways to go over and make some fonts possibly fit into some more abstract shapes. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go back to our type tool, and let's just make it a little bigger. Okay, that looks good. And what we're going to do is we are going to have that selected. We're going to go up to Object, and we're going to go Make with Mesh. Okay, and when we do this, it applies a mesh gradient to our type. Let me zoom in a little, and then you can click, but you need to make sure you're under the Direct Selection tool, and you can click on the anchor points, and make sure you unselect it, and you can click on the anchor points, and this will allow you to manipulate the type in various ways. So if you have a very strange shape, or you want to fill like a guitar, or I don't know, a camera, or something like this that is an odd shape, it's going to allow you to fit it exactly to that shape. So let's see here. And you just have to play around with it a little bit in order to kind of create the perfect shape. So, alright, there we go. Alright, so this would be a way to fill in objects and let the letters and words fill in that object properly. Okay, one of the easier ways. Now another way to do this automatically is we can go back to our type tool. So we have our type here again. And what we're going to do is go to our object. We're going to create the object. And now I'm just going to click on this object, And the way you change the fill color, or technically the color of the type, is just click on here and you can change the color. Make sure it is selected to do that. Now we're just going to bring this over our type here. And as you can see, it's already behind the ellipse, which is a good thing. If it is not, like so, if it is like this, you want to bring it behind. Now what we're going to do is click on the type, click on the ellipse. Make sure they're both highlighted and selected. And you're going to go to Envelope, Make with Top Object. And as you can see, the program automatically puts it inside the shape and creates some type of distortion to the shape in order to fit in there. It's not as accurate, and I feel as if you don't have as much control as using the mesh tool to do that. So this you have to play around with a little bit, and is more of like an automated way to do it. All right, and that will conclude our section on type.